And we're live. Hey, everybody. It's Mike Copera with podcastcondition.com. We're bringing you the 87th episode of What You Drinking. Here with Dan, as always. But not as always. Dan is not going to be drinking beer tonight. He's recovering from a little stomach bug, so he's drinking water. What brand of water is that? What age and what's the pH?
That would be Lake Michigan water, direct from our Samsung refrigerator, untapped just minutes ago. It's a beautiful, clear, almost watery color. Not much carbonation on this one. Smells of water.
So you're drinking a Budweiser tonight.
Yeah, basically, I'm drinking a light lager. No, it's another night of me being sick sometime during the weekend, really just kind of hating it, pretty much. I had beers lined up to go.
So what you said that you had beers to drink possibly. What did you have purchased for the? Because it sounded like you stopped at Binny's by the text I was getting. You were picking up trying to get some barrel-aged Pipeworks.
Yeah, I actually tried to do that 2 days in a row, so I ended up getting more than I probably should. And none of it being the barrel-aged beer, or at least none of it being Pipeworks. But I started off by getting a beer for the show. So this is a Distill. It's their Flanders Red. Wait, let me get that there. You can see it a little better. And it's a little over 6%. I think it's about 6.2%. Yeah, 6.1%, 15 IBUs. Haven't tasted it yet. You could probably describe it better than I have because you've been jamming out on that beer.
Yeah, that's quickly become one of my favorite sour beers. It's like an amazing Flanders Red. But you've not even had it yet?
No, I mean literally the same. No, it was the day before, the day of getting sick on Sunday. I picked it up, and so just never got to it.
Is that a 4-pack or 6-pack? I can't remember.
It's a 4. It's not a cheap beer. I mean, it's not the most pricey beer you're gonna get, but it's kind of like it's comparable to getting like a 4-pack of a Founders higher end beer, like their Imperial Stout or something like that.
Yeah.
I also got an old standby, the Daisy Cutter. So if all else failed and I wanted to get hoppy, that was a good one. And also because Terry's been going through medical stuff too. And she likes Daisy Cutter, so I thought that it would be nice to have around when she's feeling better. Yep. So, and then I jammed out to Distill and got some other stuff, but I'll talk about that later. I want to hear about actual beer being drunk. What are you drinking?
Well, first of all, Daisy Cutter is one of my favorites, as everyone knows that's ever watched this show, so I'm excited for you there. But this is it's a Goza, which is it's a new what do you call it, revised style of beer in the past year or so that everyone's starting to revamp. But this one's a blood orange Goza. Is it Goza or Goze?
I think it's Goza.
Okay. So let's see. Oh, looks like Mike's joining us. So this one's called this is a series of theirs, I guess, because I didn't know that there was. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey.
Good, man. We just we're getting started. Dan's having some nice, refreshing water as he recovers from being sick. So
I've been better.
Is it from a can?
What? No, the flu is not from the can. Oh no, the water. I was gonna go there. I thought you were talking about did I get the flu from the can? No, it's not that bad. No, this is fabulous Lake Michigan drinking water. So it's only the finest that the glaciers can provide.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I was doing a blood orange Goza from Anderson Valley. Looks like a series that they do because there's a different Goza that I've got in my fridge from them. Same style of bottle or can, just a little different color. I'll grab that one in a little bit, but this one is blood orange. And you could smell the orange like right away. It kind of reminds me of when you pour like an orange soda.
Oh wow!
It's got like a real light, like kind of effervescent. You can almost like feel the bubbles like floating in the air while you're when I first poured it, but you can even see
It looks like orange soda.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really it's actually coming off a lot darker on the camera than it does in front of me. It's more yellow in my opinion, but yeah, it's really good. The orange is amazing as far as the addition to this style. I think it's a good way to go.
Oh.
Still like really sour, but it's got like a bitterness to mix in with like the citrusy stuff that's going on. It's like it's hard to explain, but it's really interesting. I really like this one. I haven't had it goes in a while, and it's like I said, it's kind of an older style that died a while ago, and then they just kind of started popping up. Like in the past year or so, I would think I kind of recognize. At least that's when I kind of picked up on seeing them more often. But yeah, I like this one. I haven't really gotten anything from Anderson Valley in a while either. So I saw this and I figured I might as well grab it. So nice little California beer.
Yeah.
But I got a couple. I bought like a whole. I got like one of those random sixers at Binny's. So I got like 5 different cans, and then I saw some bottle from Deschutes that I'd never seen. I think it was like an Imperial Red of some sort.
Okay.
But yeah, I might if this one goes quick, I might have another one. But it's interesting because I just saw an article that was circulating maybe like a couple of weeks ago about how craft beer's dead because now this style is there, and the guy writing it was just like a total idiot. I'm sure you've read it because you're laughing right away without.
You know what that totally reminded me of? Was there's an episode of Big Bang Theory where Sheldon is forced to eat Greek food, which he despises, and so he's eating the meat and he's going, "Oh, the Greek civilization is wonderful. They introduced like aqueducts and this and little chewy balls of meat that taste like sweat." and that's exactly what the description that this guy was giving of Goza sounded like. It's like I'm drinking some old man's sweat that they carbonated.
I remember him saying something about the sweat, and I was like, I don't know. In a Goza, I think it's more of what it does to the beer that rather than giving it more flavor. Because I mean, there is a little bit of saltiness. It makes it more of a dry feel, in my opinion. But when I read that, I was like, you don't really. That's all in his. Whoever that wrote that, I think. In my opinion, I think that was all in that person's head when they found out that there was salt in it. But I think drinking that beer, just thinking it's some sort of a sour of some sort, before knowing what's in it, I think would have a different reaction as opposed to what that guy said. So I don't know.
Do you think it's an acquired taste? I mean, I think that my taste in beer has definitely changed over time. Where I think I started out with Sierra Nevada and Sam Adams and just kind of the thing into some of the IPAs and now I think saisons are probably my favorite style, and I never would have liked a saison when I first started drinking craft beers, and sort of something that I acquired over time. Do you think that there could be a little bit of that in play?
Oh. Yeah, for sure. I mean, my tastes have changed on almost anything that I can possibly think of that I eat or drink now. But yeah, I mean, I think sours on a whole are an acquired taste. I remember, and I think we've told the story before when O'Boyle's been on, but when we went to one of the first, I think either Night of the Living Ales at Goose Island or what was the other big one that they just had? I can't remember it. One of the big Chicago fests that everyone goes to, and we had a sour, and we were like, "Oh, this is kind of weird," and we kept drinking and we're talking, and then I was like, "I think I'm gonna go get another one of these because I kind of liked it." But at first, it was really abrasive, and yeah, it's an acquired taste for sure. So you never know it.
I think part of it, too, is that a lot of people don't realize that we're not really drinking them the way that they were originally sort of formulated when they appeared over in Europe. A lot of these styles were either fermented in a bit different conditions, Or there are a couple of styles that were distinctly brewed sour, and then they added sweet syrups to the beer to balance the sourness out. Whereas in the States, we tend to, we're like, oh, I'm not going to put, strawberry syrup or raspberry syrup or whatever into my beer. That's ridiculous. And, people just jam out on those sour notes. So, it's a weird thing to have these styles revived in America because they are getting revived, but at the same time, it's sort of like they're also becoming their own thing. So they're not really a revival as much as sort of a, let's bring back the mechanical sort of ingredients and yeast strains and whatever, and kind of brew basically what they were brewing, but we're going to kind of sell it as this set of flavors because that's what we're getting and that's what we like about it, and to hell with the whatever the syrup is. So
well, it's just funny because you've got this resurgence of craft beer since like the 80s in the United States, but all that ever was just taking European styles and turning it into an American version, bigger and better, hoppier as you can, and as bourbony stout, dark roasted stout as much as you can. And now there's almost like a second revival of craft beer in Europe because of what we've done in the United States. So the ball keeps getting passed back and forth. So it's kind of cool to see, what technology does to beers, because there's breweries doing different things with, what do you call it, the thing you run the beer through that they have at Dogfish Head, the Randall.
Oh, yeah, that's
the
right.
Randall.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that, and there's just new yeast strains being invented or created, or how just brought into different styles that normally wouldn't, and that creates different flavors. So I don't think it's ever gonna stop changing like that as we go forward. I think beer will go with us. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, sure,
So,
absolutely.
Before I get too philosophical, Mike, what are you drinking over there? I haven't we haven't heard what you're.
Yeah.
I've got something. I think it's rather limited around here. Well, I take that back. It's not available here. I had to go to Vermont to get it. It's 14th Star Brewing Company. It's a maple breakfast stout.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It's
good.
It's fantastic. It's so the story about this beer is that I was skiing in Vermont a couple of weeks ago, and I worked from home, or worked remotely, I'll say, on Friday. So I went up early, and with the goal of picking up some heady topper from where it was sold on Fridays. I did my research and figured out where to get it, and so I drove up there 5.5 hours, however long it takes to get to Stowe, Vermont, where it's sold on Fridays, and I hit up a couple of the stores and grabbed three 4-packs from two different places. But the second place that I went to is kind of a well-known kind of local Stowe beer store, and the guy that runs it is also well-known. They refer to him as Santa because he looks like Santa Claus. He's older. He's got a big white beard, the guy. And so sure enough, I walk in there and he's the first guy I see, and I talked to him a little bit, and I said, I wanted to grab some heady topper because I know you guys have it today, but I also want to grab a couple of things that I'm from Massachusetts. I want to grab a couple of things that I've never had before. Like, what else? What do you recommend?
Right.
And he threw out a whole bunch of, point out all this stuff that they had that I had never seen before, and this was one of them. He said that they had just started canning 14 Stars from St. Albans, Vermont, so pretty far up north, further north than Stowe. And he said that they just started canning, and this maple breakfast stout was one that they just came out with, and they started canning it. And I was thinking maple, that's going to be really sweet. It doesn't sound like it'd be good at all. And I was like, is it sweet? He's like, no. He's like, not at all. He's like, you get the maple flavor, but you don't. It's not sugary. You don't get the sweetness of it. And he was exactly right. You see maple breakfast stout, and you're like, it's gonna have that overpowering maple flavor and be a little sticky. but it's really not. I mean, it's a pure stout, and I actually get a little bit of smokiness to it. Um,
Huh.
you don't smell the smokiness at all. It really is. It's in the taste. And the same thing with the maple. You don't smell it. It's not sweet, but it's just kind of like this lingering maple background that's there, and it's really neat. It's very, very good.
Nice.
Sounds-
There's a beer from Founders that's kind of similar sounding to that. It's the Canadian Breakfast Stout.
Mm.
Does that come out anywhere other than Michigan, Dan? Or because I know I've had it before. I just don't know if I've seen it like sold in stores anywhere here.
Well, no, Canadian Breakfast Stout was part of their what is it? Their backstage series. That was one of their first couple of releases, I want to say, and it's basically their. I don't know if it's a higher test version of their regular breakfast stout, but instead of being in bourbon barrels, it's in bourbon barrels that had maple syrup in them first. So they were making bourbon maple syrup, and then
Wow.
they took that out, and then they put the beer in the combination, bourbon maple barrel.
Yeah.
And it's wow, it's amazing. I think that they came out with the first release. That was like probably 3 or 4 years ago now, and it's begun to reemerge. So I'm wondering if their next one is, I think, Blushing Monk is the next one on the.
Yep. I just saw them posting about that.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping. I wouldn't be surprised if that pops up again as a bottled option at a certain point. But yeah, for some reason, the last, I'd say 3 months, I've been seeing a bunch of Canadian Breakfast Stout keggings, and I don't know if they're the vintage variety. I mean,
Yeah.
the one that I had recently, the bourbon was pretty forward, so it's kind of hard to say that it was an older one unless it was really saturated with that with those bourbon notes. So I'm thinking it's a newer vintage.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to take us off on a tangent, but I remember having that beer, and it had the maple tones to it, but it wasn't really sweet like you were kind of worried about.
Yeah.
So what else did you end up getting at that store? If you drove 5 hours or 5.5 hours to get Heady Toppers, so what else did you end up bringing back? I hope.
Well, so this was
Really
only. I'm not completely crazy. It was only an hour longer than the trip would have been anyway, because we were skiing at Killington, and so it's already a decent drive. And just in case this actually ended up falling into the hands of anyone at work, I did end up doing some work that day. I found a coffee shop that had internet and signed on, and I did get some real work done. So working remotely was completely true. I just happened to be productive in other ways as well.
It's called multitasking. That's perfectly acceptable.
Nice.
So I went to I got a bunch of Heady Topper, as I said, and
Oh, you did get some.
yeah, it was
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I stocked up on whatever I could, and it's a fantastic beer, and yeah, if you haven't had it, seek it out, and if you have, it's a great double IPA, and it's sold only in cans. So that was actually one of the options for tonight, but I decided to go with the maple breakfast stout instead.
That's why I just assumed you didn't get any because you were drinking something else.
No. I still have. There's still 2 cans left. It hasn't. I'm not letting it sit. It's going fast. But yeah, it's very good.
I've only had it with you when we were at Extreme Beer Festival. I had some, so that's the only time I've ever, because that was actually when it just exploded. I think it just like started getting really popular, and then I saw it, grabbed it, and then never had it since. So I've had people that have taken trips to Vermont in hopes of grabbing some, and without any research, they come empty-handed. And
I mean, they have on their website on the Alchemist Brewery, they have a schedule of where it's delivered and when, and I mean, you got to go to those places, and when you go there, I mean, they'll have signs up all over the place saying, limit 1 4-pack per person, or limit 2 4-packs per person, and if they get their shipment at when they open at 10 or 11, it's going to be sold out by like 2 or 3 o'clock, like because people know it's there, and there's people like me who are driving up to get it. So
it's just so crazy that to think of like when they opened that brewery, did they think like, let's just make a beer? And that was like the only beer that they were making for a long time now. I don't. Are they making? How much are they making other than that now?
I don't. They have
At
other
least one
beers,
more.
but not many. And you know that I'm sure that I don't know what their ratio is of what they're actually making, but I'm sure it's very very heavy on the heady topper and a lot less on the others. Because even where I went to the stores that I went to, that was the only beer they had from the Alchemist. It was heady topper, and that was it. There were no other options, and so I'm sure if you well, the other thing is that you can't buy beer at the brewery. Like you can only get it at those places. There's no visiting the brewery. There's no tours. It's just a brewery and that's it.
I didn't realize that because I thought I heard stories that people used to like drive there and
Yeah.
like the neighbors were angry because they'd have cars like lined up along in front of their houses and stuff.
Yeah, and they were I'm forgetting the timing of this, but like part of the brewery was destroyed when they had a storm come through, and so instead of rebuilding and reopening, they just kind of shut that part down and just it's a brewery and there's nothing to visit and you can't buy anything at the brewery now. Now you can only get the beer where they distribute it on the days that they send it there. So it's odd and it's
Yeah, that's an interesting theory or strategy because on the one hand, you're making your beers very mysterious and hard to get unless you travel for it, so it makes it more popular if you think, when you've got people driving all over the place for the most wanted beers out there, it's kind of cool. But then when you can't even get it at the brewery, it's like it's basically in the hands of the distributors now to make the customers happy, which is kind of a risk.
I mean, I think they may do it themselves as far as
okay.
distribution. I think they run it themselves.
I would think that's the smart way to go because you're putting almost everything because that's like the most important thing to that company. I would assume is that beer.
And it's I mean it's not like distribution is like the 10 surrounding towns, like that's where it's distributed. It doesn't go any further south than Waterbury, Vermont, which is 4 hours from Boston, and on the Fridays they deliver to Stowe, which is 5 hours from Boston, and that's pretty much it. Like it doesn't go any further south than that. It's just kind of the surrounding Waterbury, Vermont, and the surrounding areas. One of the other beers that I got was that was suggested by Santa actually was the it pulled it up here. The name of it is lost it.
Be right back.
Well, the breakfast stout that I'm drinking right now, and here we go.
So do you remember the name of the store that you went to while you were looking up the beers?
That I'd have to look up.
Okay.
The beer was Crop Bistro and Breweries Idle Time Double IPA. Definitely something that I had never heard of. And I haven't had time to do any research on exactly where it is, but it's what I understand. It's a restaurant. They make their own beer and they bottle it, and you can buy it again. Waterbury, Vermont, and the surrounding area. Yeah. And the guy is like, the way he said to me was, he said, "I know you've never had this. You should try it." Really? He's like, "You're gonna drink a top or double IPA." He's like, "I know you like double IPAs. Try this one too." And that was just in a bomber that I opened about a week ago, and it was very good, and it reminded me of Heady Topper, and in that it was. It's unfiltered, it's cloudy, you can see the grainy grist and stuff floating around in it, and it was excellent. It was excellent. I think I'd give the edge to Heady Topper still, but it was very good. And then the other things I did on my my remotely working Friday was I went to a pub called the Prohibition Pig, which is kind of well known in the area, and it's in Waterbury, Vermont, and they have Hill Farmstead on tap there, and so I made a point of going there and trying a couple of the Hill Farmstead beers, which again, similar Heady Topper, they don't distribute further south than the middle of Vermont.
It's funny because that was the next brewery I was going to ask you about.
Yeah. I mean, at least you can go to the Hill Farmstead Brewery and they'll sell you the beer there. But from what I understand, the brewer is kind of a recluse and doesn't really like people. So he'll pour you a growler of the beer, but he doesn't want to talk to you about it. Like, it's just kind of like, let me get back to brewing. Yeah, sure, I'll fill this thing for you, but that's it.
Nice. Yeah, I've only had Hill Farmstead at Dark Lord Day. Like the last 2 years, someone has just randomly reached over the ropes and said, "You got to try this," and poured it in my glass. And they're both really good. Both ones that I've had. I don't even remember the names, to be honest, because it was so random that I got to try it. So
yeah.
Are they a specific style? Like, I know how Trillium's mostly the farmhouse saisons. Are they kind of like that too, where they have a certain personality to them or a style that they stick to?
I mean, the personality, yes. Trillium is funny because it's a farmhouse style brewery making farmhouse style beers in the middle of Boston, so it's kind of strange in that sense. But Hill Farmstead is same style, but it's actually in the middle of nowhere in Vermont, and they similar, I guess, in that they that's the same style, but the beer I had was a beer called Edward. It's a pale ale. That's it was fantastic, and it's funny, these Hill Farmstead and the Alchemist, and it's almost like if they wanted to expand, I'm sure they could. I mean, they must be doing all right for themselves with how well they sell out their beer and how hard it is to get and how people seek it out. But it's kind of like they're happy with the size they're at. They're doing what they do, and they're making fantastic beer. And so kind of they're sticking with what works almost. I don't know. But I was excited to try that one at the Prohibition Pig, and it was a nice little Friday I had.
Nice.
That sounds awesome. That's a good way to spend a work day.
Yeah. And skiing at Killington the next day, and that was pretty much it. I think I only consumed Bud Light and Coors Light after that. I quickly switched from quality to quantity.
There you go.
Nice. Well, what was I going to say? I saw a couple things in the news, but one of the things that you said how they're kind of sticking to their area and they could expand, but they probably aren't or may not have any plans to do that at this point. I was listening to a podcast that kind of convinced me that, like, I'm so done with listening to other people's reviews on beers and their opinions on them, because I didn't realize how much this actually takes effect. But there was a brewery on a show that I was listening to, and they were talking about how one of their beers, they're an LA-based brewery, I think, and they had an IPA or something like that was like super popular at their location, and all the local markets, people just loved them. But then they shipped their beers to San Francisco, where they have a different water source, they have different, I don't know, it's just a different area, and all of the people up there were complaining that there was a problem with the distributor, because all of the beer that they had up there from them had like a metallic flavor to it, or there was something wrong with the beers, and they had discussions with the distributors, or like, is anyone else complaining about this batch of beer? And they're like, no, it's all up in San Francisco. So it happens to be that there's a water, quality difference, and there's, I guess, harder water in the LA area than there is up north, and it was just the difference of the water that they used, that the people just weren't used to the taste of the beer, and they thought that there was something wrong with it. So, like a beer like Hill Farmstead or the Alchemist, like they might not travel well, if they're distributed across the country and they don't, they're not drank as as quickly and not as fresh, could make a total difference on the beer itself. So I always wondered why some breweries like stuck to their state, like New Glarus won't leave Michigan or Wisconsin, Shorts won't leave Michigan, and I think it has a lot to do with that. Not to mention when you're dealing with multiple state laws, having to figure out how to do the same thing but differently in every state. It's kind of a hassle. So I kind of understand why some breweries don't want to expand outside of their local market, which you could be a completely successful brewery and not leave your neighborhood. I mean, or your state. It's crazy.
I mean, if anything, if anyone.
And I can hear you. I'm gonna go get another beer, but I can hear you.
I mean, I was gonna say if anyone, from what I read about the two brewers at the Alchemist and Hill Farmstead, I mean, these guys are, they're kind of unique, eccentric, kind of masters of the craft. And if there was, I don't think anyone's come out and said it, but I'm sure that you could put them in the category of those who believe that quality is the most important thing, and they don't want to sacrifice that. And I mean, it says right on the cans of Hetty Topper that drink this beer fresh because we'll keep making it. I mean, don't let it age. That sort of thing. The idea of if you've got it, drink it because we keep making it and you can keep buying it. And if they were to ship it, outside of the state or further south or anywhere like that, I mean, it's going to age. I mean, it's going to get a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks old, by the time it gets to wherever it's going. And no doubt that these really hoppy beers like Hetty Topper and Edward from Hill Farmstead, I mean, the quality is going to degrade a little bit even after a couple weeks. So it's I'm sure that's got to be part of it. And they probably figure, we can expand, we can make a bigger brewery, we can brew double what we're making now and expand to 5 different states, but the allure is gonna wear off. Whether it's because more people have it or because the quality isn't going to be as good because it's going to get older as it goes further away.
Well, there's another dimension to this too, and that's that as you begin sizing up as a brewery, you begin to hit different threshold levels where profitability, your capacity, and basically the labor intensity of the process all sort of kind of hit these bell curves. So as you try to get bigger and bigger, you kind of have to get up to a certain point where you're selling enough to then get enough equipment and enough labor to propel yourself to that next level, and it gets really brutal for a while. So ultimately it comes down to picking exactly what size you want to aspire to be. I remember on what was it, craft beer, blah, 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 blah. What is the big podcast? It's not shoot, I forget. They just had on New Belgium, the president of New Belgium. I forget what her name was, but she was talking about how New Belgium is getting, going to get that much huger again. I think they're going up to like 250,000 barrels of beer pretty soon per year. And you could tell that is strictly because not only did they get in on the right time as far as the wave goes, but they just were going to push to get bigger because that was their vision. So yeah, it's not just a creativity point, because I think that you can scale up and still make great beer. I mean, Founders and Bells have definitely proven that. Arguably Goose Island too. But it really comes down to what do you aspire to do, I think, or what kind of business do you aspire to run, or what kind of business do you aspire to run you? Because a lot of times these brewers get into it because they love to brew, then realize, oh crap, I'm a business person now, and right. That really begins to run your life, or potentially.
Yeah. What you just said kind of touches on a couple things that I wanted to say, but Kevin's here, so I just wanted to say hi. What's up, Kevin?
How you guys doing?
I can't. Oh, there you are. I was like, his mic's not on.
No, it's on.
Hear you. How's it going, man?
Not bad, not bad. I heard it was canned beer. It's been a few weeks for me, so I feel like I was off. So I got I have my beer, but I also have a backup.
Just in case.
In case you shotgun the first one, or
because I had this once before, and I ended 2-3 years ago, and it ended up going to the sink, and I trusted that maybe it was just a bad one, so I'll try again. It came in a mixed 12-pack from Costco, or not from Costco, from Cost Plus. The Lion Stout from.
Oh yeah.
But you've already seen it. It's from Sri Lanka. Via.
I've had that in bottles. That was good.
Was that?
At least, yeah, I had that in bottles. That was good. At least
I know,
it was a while ago.
I've heard it was decent, and then the one bottle I had, again, as part of a mix pack, was just so bad that I figured it must not have survived the trip from Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So anyway, and it's like in a little can. It's got to be, but it feels like it must be like 11 ounces, because it's smaller than this can.
Wow.
Oh, that is weird.
Well, because it's in milliliters, and it's got a stick. It's actually got a sticker on it.
That's wild.
I'm trying to. I'll bet the sticker is over the stuff that's in Sri Lankan or whatever they might.
Wow.
Anyway, I'll check that after the show because it doesn't show up now. So after all that, I'll take a sip.
How old is that can?
I got it. Well, it doesn't even have a wide mouth top. First of all.
Oh,
The 80s. You got it in the 80s.
Can opener to open that one, or?
Yeah, I used a church key. I got it in a mixed 12-pack for Christmas, so it's been sitting here. It's an 8.8 stout, so I wasn't worried about waiting a month. It's not bad. It's nothing special, but it's not bad. It's not very smooth. The taste is fine, a little roasty, but it's a little harsh at the same time. It's an 8.8 stout, which is pretty hearty.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's coming from probably about as far from here as you could possibly get that's still beyond this planet. It's got to be pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. I wouldn't seek it out.
You got to back up.
Yeah, I got to back up. I'll be fine. Don't worry about
it. And that's not what it was. It's good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The backup's pretty good.
I opened this other Goza, which I guess I've had this before because I went to check it in and it already had the check mark on it. So this is the can from the first beer that I had. This is the Blood Orange Goza.
Oh, no kidding.
And then I finished that, and now this one is it's called the Kimmy, the Yink, and the Holy Goza.
Huh. Oh, they're both from Anderson Valley?
They're both from Anderson Valley, same series, and they're the same style, but this one it's got the other one had the orange is so much more. It stands out so much more now that I've kind of had this one, where this is more just like your standard Goza, I would think. I don't know anything about what's going into this one because I assume there's some sort of other, they only talk about the salt-like dryness and all that stuff on here, but they don't really say what's in this one that's different from the other ones or not. But
or less sweat than the last one.
Yeah, right. but this one's good too.
Yeah.
I prefer the blood orange. It brought a lot of cool. Yeah, it smells. I mean, I like that one a lot. It's a good combo between the citrusy orange, but like the sourness and the saltiness. I don't know. That one's better in my opinion. But you were talking about New Belgium, Dan, and I was also listening to a podcast about, and somebody had mentioned them, and I don't know how true this is or if this is really what happened, but from the story that they were talking about, like back when New Belgium was kind of growing and getting bigger, they were buying those fooders, which are the big gigantic wooden tanks, stainless steel everywhere. Well, New Belgium obviously they do a lot of Belgian styles, so they do the old school style tanks, and they bought them like 50 at a time at one point, and so a lot of people couldn't even find them anymore because they had an agreement with New Belgium like so long ago that it's all timing. Like what we were talking about earlier, Kevin, was kind of like the difference between how a brewery can just choose to kind of like stick to their local market, and Mike was talking about some Heady Topper and some Hill Farmstead that he had just obtained out in Vermont. So, it's like it's crazy when you think about all the different factors, Dan, you were talking about. Sorry, I lost my train of thought as far as what you said, but you hit a couple of key things that I was like wanting to touch on. What can you kind of? Wasn't even part of it. If you can kind of repeat, and maybe it'll remind me. But
oh, sure. I was basically talking about really kind of the size of a brewery, depending on what size brewery you aspire to be. Also on the idea that a lot of people who start breweries go into it because they have this passion for brewing, but don't necessarily have a passion for business, except to kind of keep the brewing going, and then suddenly realize at a certain point that it's turned on them, and that now yeah, it's sort of like, no, I become a businessman, I can't brew anymore.
Yeah,
that's true of probably almost any business that's started out of a hobby. It's probably the same thing, and it's almost like it's almost fearful, like, oh, you're gonna ruin your hobby now.
Yeah, exactly. What have I done? I've wrecked the thing I love.
But yeah, there's so many factors when it comes to it, though, as far as how big you want to get, as opposed to how far you want to reach. If you've got, like I said before, multiple states, you've got to figure out what each state laws are for when it comes to alcohol, and there's distribution laws, and where can you distribute and where can't you go, and depending on, like, you might have this plan on what you want to do and how big you want to be, but like you said, you got to keep going when it's profitable, and then step back where you have to, and where is that? Who knows? Because this is like such a crazy time, and a such a resurgence of breweries popping up, like, I don't know, a million a day now. It's like, it seems like every time I go on Facebook, there's like a new one that's setting up like invites for their grand opening, and I'm like, how the hell do all these places either stay afloat or I was reading Chris that joins us on the show, Mr. Liquid Bread. He was just posting a story either earlier this morning or yesterday about how the guy who basically created a lot of the major beers from Founders. He did the KBS. He came up with the Centennial IPA recipe. He's the guy that went off with a partner, another guy from Founders, I think, and they started Parent Brewing, which is a huge success. It's a huge place. And last time I was in Grand Rapids, it's just packed to the door. There was like over an hour wait just to sit down and eat. And they're leaving again. They're leaving Perrin, and now they're starting a Gray Line Brewing is the planned name, and they had like the design for what it's going to look like and everything, and looks awesome.
And it's another one that's in Grand Rapids. It's going to be on the west side of the city, it sounds like. So it's like, how many breweries can you stuff into Grand Rapids?
There's more. New Holland is opening a remote location in Grand Rapids as well now.
Jesus Christ. It's insane.
You say that, but Grand Rapids only has, I think, in the article that he posted, I think there's only like 9 breweries in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, but you look at the size of the city.
Yeah, how many people live in
it is not a big city.
Agreed. I'm not saying I'm
Naperville, though. 9 breweries is a lot. I'm looking at Grand Rapids.
I understand. I mean, I'm jaded because we live in Chicago, where there's like breweries in every neighborhood. But like, I don't know. I don't know. I look at a city also.
Like Grand Rapids has 190,000 people.
I understand. I'm not comparing the size of Grand Rapids.
What's that?
I understand the difference between the size of but Grand Rapids has more of a feel like Milwaukee, in my opinion.
It does.
Would you not agree?
Oh, sure.
So I don't know the difference in the size of those two cities. But there's a lot of breweries in Milwaukee, too. maybe not in the city, so I understand that. But Perrin is not in Grand Rapids. Perrin is also just outside of Grand Rapids. So, factor that in as well. But I mean, I'm not saying that Grand Rapids. They're Beer City, USA, I think, is their nickname. So I get what you're saying. But there could be more. In my opinion, there could always be more. I don't think there's a point where you're going to have too many. In my opinion, I mean, they'll obviously be weeded out when the ones that aren't as successful go under. But there's tons of great stuff there. I'm excited for the festival. I don't want to make this another Michigan Beer Festival episode like we did last week, since.
Yeah. Which is good, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the chat up. I just saw a message from Kevin. Milwaukee.
Oh, no.
That's cool. No, no, thank you.
No, I only put that because that surprised me. After we had gone there, I thought the same myself. I was like, oh, it seems the same. Like, it's got the same size vibe. I was like, whoa, big difference.
Yeah.
But it's weird, is because I think Milwaukee also is more. I mean, people do live in the city, obviously, but I think it's more. It's busier during work times. It's more of a.
Yeah.
No.
I have no idea. That certainly could hold merit. I
don't know.
Baseball team and Grand Rapids does not. They have an NBA team. Grand Rapids does not.
This is very true.
That's the only things I know.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm excited. There's a couple breweries that I would like to could try going to again. Mitten was really good. Highly recommend that if you're ever in that Grand Rapids area. But yeah, it's gonna be a good time. I don't know if you're excited to be standing out in the cold, Dan. I don't know what's your opinion of that? Because I'm excited. I love being outside, whether it's winter or. Because Kevin, aren't you going to the Naperville Fest this same weekend?
No, it's this Saturday, and I can't go now. Yeah, no, it came up here, and I'm unable to attend, and I'm disappointed, but it happens. Oh.
I mean, I'm good with it as long as you're not standing still for hours on end, because that's not really doing anything, and it's cold.
We're gonna be moving around.
Well, not in line, Wait, what's that?
I was saying, what are you referring to all of a sudden? What's the cold?
Oh, at Grand Rapids, we're going to the Michigan Brewers Guild Winter Festival up in Grand Rapids this coming Saturday.
This weekend, right? Oh, okay, okay, got it. I remember. And that's outside. I didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. It's
I didn't make the connection.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and it's a minor league ballpark. And it sounded like from what Chris was saying, it's going to be in the parking lot. So I don't think it's going to be on the diamond or anything like that.
Cool.
But it's all outside. I'm guessing they have some warming stations because, if you keel over, they want people dying of hypothermia or anything. Or maybe they do. I don't know.
They save some of the rare warming station.
Well, just to kind of give you an idea of what they do in Michigan, I saw a video of this year. I guess Founders did a Firkin Freeze Out festival where they have a bunch of beers on Firkins. They had huge mugs of beer, like big mugs about this big, carved out of ice. So the entire mug is a big block of ice. It looked awesome. I was watching if you go to the. Yeah, I agree with that too. And cold, and water down your beer too.
Yeah, exactly.
But the idea is awesome. I think
that is cool.
But there's the Founders Firkin Freeze Out 2005 video on their YouTube channel. It's pretty cool.
How far is Grand Rapids from Chicago?
Like 3.5 hours, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the weather this time of year. If you hit snow, it could be 4.5.
You leave right now, you wouldn't get there till morning, probably.
Yeah, it could be. It could get that bad sometimes, but.
Is it still snowing right now?
Yeah.
It was when I came home about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. How about you, Mike? Are you still getting snow? Have you gotten out of the snow?
It finally stopped. It's been a battle.
I've seen pictures.
I mean, last year, but this year's been crazy. We had ice dam issues on our roof. We had to get people out here to clean off our roof because we were getting water in the house. It's been a mess. I think we're ready for spring now.
Yeah. Wow.
That
Yeah,
stinks. I didn't realize that.
And I was pretty religious about getting the roof rake and scraping the snow off too. But even with that, it still was causing problems. We were getting some water in, so thankfully we have not gotten. I guess we got like an inch of snow last night, but it wasn't enough to cause any problems. And so since we've got our roof cleaned off, we've been good since then. So hopefully it stays and so the temperature now is 20 degrees outside. So it's
heat wave.
yeah, we're having a heat wave.
Good thing the guys from Texas and Louisiana aren't on. They'd be wondering what a roof rake is.
I know. Man, that thing's come in handy. That's for sure.
I'll bet.
That's crazy. So Kevin, what you were in Florida this past week? Did you get to try any good beers, or was it all
not
kid
much?
time?
It was not a. It was definitely sometimes tough to get a beer. We were at Disney World with my daughter, and so no car and no beer in Magic Kingdom with all the kid stuff.
Wasn't a big focus.
No, it was not a focus. But we did in the Germany pavilion at Epcot. We did wait in line for a good. What I had the Erdinger Dunkel. Basically, they had a whole. It wasn't quite a bomb or whatever they serve them in, a liter poured out, and it was a nice little treat. Aaron had something called it was literally called grapefruit beer. It didn't have like a fancy name or like a citrus IPA. It was grapefruit beer, but it was essentially just an ale with grapefruit flavor in it. So which goes well, kind of like it's like an overpowering version of a hoppy beer that's citrusy, but it was interesting. It's just grapefruit.
Sounds like a Radler almost.
Yeah, it's a Radler.
Is that what is that what it is? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it was.
Radler's usually
I had a
lemony,
sip of it. It was fine.
Yeah.
I was more in the mood for my Dunkel.
A shandy if you were in Great Britain.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, it was the middle of the afternoon, so it was probably appropriate.
Nice. I thought we were going to hear that you went to the Harry Potter. Was it at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter where they sell the butter beer over there?
Oh yeah.
Whatever those words are, and butter beer doesn't sound right.
I don't know what those words are.
Butter.
Yeah, it's apparently it's something from the movies and the books. I'm assuming, but it's what I've heard. It's not alcoholic. It's kind of like a
Worst
soda
Harry
or
Potter
something like
podcast ever.
All right, put
You're
butter
welcome.
in the wheel.
Butter, no!
It was funny. We got that beer at the Germany pavilion, and I was drinking it for a while. And as we're walking around, we're approaching the Great Britain pavilion, and there's people walking the other way, and they've got some sort of a big beer. It's like, oh, should we have held out for the English ale?
What did they have? Was it
I don't know.
different,
I
or
was
you-
kind of curious about it, but they had. But at least at Epcot, as you're walking around all the countries, they've got good food and drink. Like the margarita stand at Mexico is a long line.
People trying to forget about the marionettes.
Yeah.
The mechanical things are creeping me out. I need a margarita, man.
So Dan, what were those barrel-aged Pipeworks beers that you were talking about that they just released? Because I went to my Binny's and they said that they had those like last Friday and they were gone like immediately.
Yeah, I mean they've been all over. They've been mostly in the city. It sounds like I'll say what they were first. They were the Abduction, so it's their barrel-aged Abduction, just plain Abduction stout, and the Jones Dog. So it's their. I'd want to say that's not an Imperial Russian stout. That's more of a regular American stout that's barrel-aged. And it sounded like the majority of those, either one or both of them, went to their kind of long-standing friends with benefits that they picked up when they did their initial fundraising through crowdfunding with Kickstarter. So there's been something of a shock to the system for people who are rushing out to get these white whales while they can, and there's just not many of them to go around because a lot of them already went to to designated people. So I ended up going today, and I didn't get any at Highland Park. They said that they might get their Pipeworks thing in today, or order in today, and they didn't. I ended up getting, though, a couple of good ones. I got the Distill 1920 stout, which is a Belgian-style imperial stout, it sounds like, that they aged in a... what did they age it in? They aged it in cognac Ford, or Fjord, or however you pronounce that. I have no idea. The other one I got was their Das Vidanya, which is a Russian Imperial Stout. That's a bourbon barrel aged. Oh yeah, sure. That's sorry.
Oh, that's cool.
Bourbon barrel aged. Yeah, it's a nice label. So, these are both 500-liter bottles, and they're pretty. They're a little bit pricier than I would have probably gone with normally, but they were there and they looked yummy, so I got them. But yeah, it's been just a bear to get the Pipeworks stuff because of the whole Friends with Benefits program, which great for the people who supported them, 5 years ago. But now what do you do?
Is that for actual people, or because when I was being explained that story by the guy at Binny's, I thought it was the stores that supported them when they first opened up, but it's actual the people, like anybody can buy the Friends with Benefits thing when they first did the Kickstarter. Yeah,
exactly. It sounds like I want to say there are a couple of programs that are going like that too. Like there's artisanal ales down on the south side of the city. I forget what it's like. Not Perennial? No, it's not Perennial. Perennial, I think, is out in St. Louis. But there's something called artisanal ales down south side of the city that has got a program where they're going. It's like for a membership, we will give you the sort of initial releases of the finest, rarest beers, blah blah blah. This sounds like Pipeworks is doing the same thing, except with people who did the Kickstarter campaign years ago. So, I don't know if that's going to encourage them to up the production on these or not, but they're definitely getting blowback on this one for some reason. What do you mean?
Like fans are pissed?
Oh yeah, I mean it sounds like people are up in arms, which it's always absurd to go that route. It's like, come on guys, it's just beer, wonderful, sure, if it's this special stuff, but come on, it's you don't have to get all gladiatorial combat about it. No, I mean it's like the white whales are just turning people into these freaky beer gladiators. It's weird.
There's already more beers at Vinny than I could ever try.
I know.
Oh yeah.
There'll be a bunch of that I don't get.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw. What I haven't seen in a very long time, and I saw it at the Binny's today, was just standard, regular old abduction. No special. You do?
I've never drank it. I bought it I forgot you're bringing this. I bought it at last time you had Stoutfest. We were gonna have it, but now
that's right.
Now I'll have it the next time.
Nice. Now maybe I'll buy this new one and we can compare it. All right, sounds good. Well, probably about time where we should wrap it up and figure out what we're gonna drink next week, right? What time is it? It's a little after 9.
It's after 9.
It's about perfect.
Oh, hey, while you're rolling, I wanted to mention that I had a Three Floyds beer I've never heard of anybody having before, and it was the War Mullet.
That's a good one.
It was fine. It was
a long time ago. It's been a while, so I don't even remember the style, but I remember I could picture the bottle.
It was Imperial IPA.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one.
It was good. It was Three Floyds, so it was good, but it wasn't as good as some of their other IPAs.
No, I'd agree with that too.
But it was really good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Nice. Where'd you end up grabbing that, or where'd you see it?
The Famous Liquors at Madison and Des Plaines in Forest Park. Yes.
Nice.
Is there anything we want to add to this? Has anyone thought of anything lately that maybe we could toss on the wheel?
What's on the list? Can you run through it?
Yeah. Please.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got wild card collaboration. We got a canned beer, local sours, barley wines, beers you can't pronounce, malt liquor, Doppelbock, Death Label, anything considered a strange ingredient, milk stout, brown ale, local brewery seasonal release, everyone does the same brewery, cork and caged, and beer with balls.
Throw an Irish beer on there for March.
Roche?
No, I said throw an Irish beer on there.
Irish, I'm sorry.
March.
Yeah. Oh, and take canned off since we just did that.
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah. Before we went off, I wanted to make sure it was Craft Beer Nation was where I saw the podcast a couple of weeks ago about New Belgium. It was definitely worth checking out. So if anybody's listening is curious about that one, check out their backlog of blogs and.
That's the show where the one gentleman had joined us a couple times, right?
Right.
What was his name? I think his last name's Miller.
Okay.
Is it Matt?
I think so.
Well, yeah. Matt Miller was the name of one of the guys. I don't know if he was from that.
That's him then. Okay. So I took off can. I put on Irish beers. Do we want to pick a specific style or just keep it in general?
Well, and do we want to do it Irish styles or do we want to do it beer from Ireland?
Oh, good point. Good point.
Oh boy, maybe it's going to be to the judgment of the beer buyer.
All right.
That's fair.
That sounds good.
I would hate to narrow it down just because there could be some interesting stuff. And since we only have probably 3 weeks until that comes off the wheel.
Very true. You'll be nice and stocked up by the time I know. Brandon wanted to throw on the malt liquor here.
Hey, I've been here waiting for the wheel, man. What's up?
You wearing a Blackhawks shirt?
Anything we want to throw on before we spin it? You're on, Brandon. You want to add anything, or we just go?
Just go with it. Why not?
All right, here we go. I'm gonna hit the button. It's spinning. Can't really see what it's saying. Looks like it just stopped now. Sours.
Yes.
Which I'm cool with. That sounds good to me.
I was going to say, I'm good with that. I double scored on my can for this week that I can't have. Damn it.
I was going to say, you should probably drink some more water, rest up, and get ready for this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be drinking plenty of beers. So we'll have plenty to talk about next week. So if you guys are around, I want to say thanks for you guys for joining us, and thanks for popping in, Brandon, to say hello and goodbye. But also just a kind of little announcement. Some of you probably already know, obviously, but we kind of announced it this week that my wife and I are having our first child due August 30th. So I thought I'd mention it to anyone on the show that's not heard this yet.
Congratulations,
man.
Thank you very much. So we're very excited. But we will be back around this time next week, as we do every Wednesday night around 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we'll be doing, I think this will be our 78th or 79th, almost 80 episodes now. So looking forward to joining you guys next week. Thanks again for joining, and anyone who's watching this on YouTube, thanks. Like our video, subscribe, and comment. And we will see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.